Hey guys, if you're new to RC, this is a video that you must watch because we will be reviewing this soldering iron. It's an essential tool for your RC journey for a long term, and you just have to purchase once. It will last many years as well. So in the market, most of the soldering iron, they are rated at 60 watt, 80 watt. This one we are recommending is rated for 90 watt. So you can get up to 480 Celsius degree. And it's digital too, so you clearly know what is the temperature that you are running. You do not need to go as high as 480 degrees Celsius. Most of the time, 300 Celsius is enough, not 360. Otherwise, for some application where it requires more heat, for example, soldering onto a large surface, then probably you can go up to 480. For a 60 watt soldering iron, that will be very tough because a 60 watt soldering iron usually can only go up to 400 degrees Celsius, which is not enough for certain application, and it can be frustrating trying to solder it successfully. Other than Celsius, you can change this to a Fahrenheit as well. And it's from Hanskit, a quality company. Also, because different country using different wall plug, so we have included 3 types of wall plug on our store at AGRC Depot. They are US, EU, and UK. Now let's take a look inside. This is not just a soldering iron, but it comes with other tools and accessories as well. So I live in Malaysia. I'm using a UK plug. So you got a sponge, be sure to wet it before you use it to wipe your soldering iron. And this is a stand, which you have to bend it upwards this way to let your soldering iron to rest on it, especially when it's hot. There are 5 different tips, which is my favorite. So different soldering tip for different application, especially for example, this has a very sharp thin tip. So this is for soldering something very tiny, small space like on a circuit board. This one has a flat blunt nose kind of tip. This will be for application where you need to have a lot of heat applied to the surface, including this as well. And it looks really good quality. So this one also looks very similar to the one that is already on a soldering iron, and I believe this is the most overall kind of size for soldering iron because almost every single soldering iron comes with such tip. Keep this aside, but don't lose it because who knows, it may be a time saver for you one day. Comes with a manual as well in English and Chinese that you can go through. Before I turn this on to heat it up, I'm going to show you how to change the tip. So you just loosen the cap screw over here, then remove it, pull this out, change to a new one that you want to use, put this back and screw it back on. And from here I can see this whole thing is really good quality. The metal looks very nice quality. It's a smooth and matte surface over here, and the body looks really high quality as well. And there's a rubber socket here to reduce the heat coming to your finger. Regarding the tip, if you look closely, there's actually a coating at the tip. So this is the coating for longevity. It will make your life much easier while using it. It will help the solder to stick on it, so it's easier for you to work on the electronics while soldering, and also help to transfer the heat to the solder. To clean it, just apply solder. Never ever use a sandpaper to scratch or to sand the surface of the tip. You're going to delete away the coating. It will make it very hard to melt the solder, and the solder will not stick on the surface as well. To turn it on, just plug it to the wall plug. It will light up, but it will go to off by itself. Then long press the red button, and then look at this. Heats up so quickly, man. Compared to my very old soldering iron, it takes a minute for it to heat up. It's very powerful. Also, it's normal for a new soldering iron, when you're heating up for the first time, there may be smoke coming off. That is normal. So it looks like the preset temperature is 275. To increase the temperature, just short press. If you hold the plus button, then it will go up faster. And to decrease the temperature, press once or long press. So very convenient way to adjust it. And it looks like all my buttons, they are not, not in a correct orientation. To turn it off, just long press the red button. That easy. To change it from Celsius to Fahrenheit, while it's off, press and hold both plus and minus button. Then it will show the unit. To change, you can press plus to change it either to Celsius or Fahrenheit. Once confirmed, just let it go back into off mode again. There's an auto sleep feature that I recommend to turn it on. So while it's off, long press one of the button, and then by default it's off. Then you just switch it to either on or off. I recommend turning it on so that it powers down itself while not being used for safety reasons. So let's test. And other essential tool you need for soldering iron, be a solder as well, a good quality one. Don't chip out on this. This is very important. Go AGRC Depot to get a good one. We only recommend what we have used before. From our experience, a good solder has a low melting point, easy to melt, and does not harden too quickly. Bad solder, very hard to melt, high melting point, and hardens too quickly. If you don't believe me, get a cheap one and get frustrated. A solder is something that can make or break your day. Then another essential tool we are selling on Asia RC Depot is also this helping hand. This one has a 4 helping hand with a magnifying glass and also a torchlight. It's all very helpful. So you can check out the link in the description on where you can get all this. I also have my sponge wet ready, but you should have like a metal container to put this on. So let's try this thin wire, and we have it set about 360 degrees Celsius. This should be an easy job when you have a good solder and a good soldering iron. So we're going to pre-tin this wire. See, it's that easy when you have a good tool. As you can see, the solder is able to easily just stick onto 360 area of this wire. If this is a bad solder, you're going to have hard time getting this stick onto the wire. Then a tougher challenge, this is a 10 gauge thick wire, which will require a lot more heat to solder this easily. So I'm going to increase the heat. I think let's try 420. We set it to 420 and wait for it to heat up. So we show it to you, it's heating up now. 420. Almost just a blink of an eye. And here's a great tip. For an easy soldering, put your solder onto where you want to solder. By doing this, as soon as it melts, it will stick onto the wire. So let's do it. Look at this. See, I told you, it just stick right onto the surface of the wire. In fact, I'm not getting as good result as this with my previous soldering iron, which is only, I think, 60 watt. So high wattage, high power, more heat definitely helps. I'm going to rotate it a bit. So in this case, a helping hand is very helpful as well. That's why it's called helping hand. Unless you I'm gonna ask your wife to solder this, to hold this for you. I'm sure if you're watching this, you don't have a wife. Just kidding. And then you apply solder from the top as well. And rotate it. Look at this. Man, so like I said, with a good solder and a good soldering iron, a powerful one, it is so easy to even solder this very large gauge wire. So I got a bit too much of solder here. Dang. So anyone who had a hard time soldering a large gauge wire will understand what I mean. Envy with the equipment I have, which you can get on Asia RC Depot. No bullshit, we only sell you what we have tested. Now when it comes to soldering this 18650 lithium ion, there will be people who say, if you solder it, it's going to damage the cell. Well, the key is don't apply the heat on the surface for too long. Within 1-2 seconds is fine. And this is why you need a soldering iron that is hot enough, that is high powered. So it's easier to apply enough heat onto the surface and to melt the solder, and then you can move your soldering iron away and let it cool down by itself without transferring too much of heat onto the whole cell. And this have had worked for me for years. By doing this correctly, I have radio control planes using large lithium ion pack that I built myself that is able to realize its full rated capacity, done over 100 km range. No issue, as long as you have the right equipment. You can also check out the link in the description for a very old video that I shared how to solder this lithium ion easily. First, you're going to sand the surface first, then apply some soldering paste. Temperature, I think it will be good with I think 430 to 450. Now let's give it a try. So as you can see, it sticks on. If I touch the cell, I don't feel warm at all. I want it to melt on a larger surface, so I've increased the temperature to 450. And let's see if we can do that. Yup, that's why you need a hot soldering iron. It's powerful enough and a good solder, so you can easily solder onto a iron cell without damaging it. And this is only for demonstration purpose, so I'm gonna suck this solder away. You can also buy this sucker on Asia RC Depot. This is also called a desolder pump. So I'm just gonna hit it first quickly, put it near and suck. Then just clean it like that. Easy. So if your soldering iron tip is dirty, you can wipe it on a wet sponge. But from my experience, I don't really recommend it. Because from what I know, it changes the surface of the soldering tip. So I don't really recommend doing this. When it's ugly, just apply solder onto it. And even if it's ugly, it works. You don't really need to clean it using a sponge. If you're new to RC, the reason we want you to buy a soldering iron is because the motor doesn't come pre-soldered with a wire. So I'm going to do it just for a demonstration purpose. So just slot in the wire first and then put the solder on it and heat it up with your soldering iron. And that's it. That easy when you have a good tool. So a good solder, when it's hardened, you can see the surface is shiny, chrome-like. If it's a bad solder, it will be dull. So then you know this is a bad solder that you are always having problem with. So there you go. This is my review of yet another soldering iron. Before this, I was using this, which is powered by a battery, good for outdoor. This is only 65 watt, sufficient for most of the time, but there are cases where this is just not hot enough. And this is freaking expensive, minimum double the price of this. And this is the one I'm using since small. My dad bought it for me and it's still working today, but the tip is pretty up already, but it's still working. So if you buy a good one, this will last you for a lifetime, and you can keep your hair from falling because it doesn't frustrate you like with the other bad and cheap one. So you can check out a link in the description where you can get the soldering iron, the solder, the helping hand, the sucker, and like and subscribe if you've not done so. Click the left thumbnail for latest video or smash the subscribe button on the middle of the screen. So I'll see you on the next video. Bye.